Hello, you're very welcome to AFI Weekly here on the Under Centre podcast. Dara, joined by Rain, looking to be joined by Alex in a few minutes as well. We have plenty to discuss this evening. We have four playoff games, a plate game, shenanigans at the start of last week, going into the middle of last week, whether we're actually going to have all of our games on or not. And then, of course, the bombshell news this evening that the Cork Admirals head coach Brendan Kelleher has decided to step away from the team following his team's defeat to UCD at the weekend. So there's plenty, Rain, to discuss. I just worry about whether or not we're going to fill it all in the hour.
I know, yeah, it's been a pretty hectic week, both on and off the field. So, look, we'll do our best to talk about all that we can. But there is certainly a lot to talk about.
Yeah. If you haven't followed from the results from the weekend, you probably already know only 1 out of 2 members of the show is going to be actually taking part in the Heart Bowl. Unfortunately, the Dublin Rhinos could not win a second semi-final in 2 years to make it to consecutive bowls, and they lost out to the Minotaurs. Congratulations to them. But Alex Sims will be going to the Heart Bowl. It's the best thing for a Sims to go to a championship game with the word harp in it because, well, if you know, you know. Big winners over the Crusaders, and we'll talk about that too. We'll start. I guess, Reen, I'm going to give Alex a bit of time to get on air, so we won't talk about UCD Admirals just yet and what happened after that. So we'll start with, the undefeated team, the number 1 seed in the sorry, hay fever getting the better of me. The number 1 seed in the Shamrock Bowl Conference, that is, of course, the Belfast Trojans. They secured their place in Athlone with a 22-0 victory over the Dublin Rebels at Derrimore. Rayshon Boswell had 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. Max Dimitrov had a pick 6. He also had a second interception on the day. Adam McElwee and Mo Ramadan also contributed with 2-point conversions. Like I mentioned, Max had 2 interceptions in total on the day. Chris Hill and Tom Goodchild also contributed with interceptions as well. A routine, you could say, by looking at the scoreboard, victory for the Trojans. Not their biggest victory. They did have a bigger victory over the Rebels over the week, during the season, I should say. But from watching the tape of this game, the Rebels came up to Derrimore with a very, very well planned defense to frustrate the Trojans, and that's exactly what they did. Unfortunately, on the day, they couldn't get the offense moving as well as their defense has. Otherwise, maybe this game could have been a little closer in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that previous game between the two sides came earlier in the season, and I think I mentioned last week how much improving that the Rebels have done over the course of the season, and they really did put it up to the Trojans in this one. But yeah, like you said, the firepower of the Trojans is just insane. Definitely, deservedly heading to the bowl. I mean, it seems like it's an impossibility to stop Rayshon Boswell from getting on the score sheet these days. So yeah, it's a very impressive victory for the Trojans, and well deserved, like I said.
Yeah, and on top of that, I should mention Brandon Falconer had 2 sacks in the first half alone. It was only 8-0 at halftime. Most of the first quarter was taken up actually by the Rebels on offense, with them driving quite effectively, but also with some penalty flags as well on both sides of the ball. In the second quarter, like I mentioned, Rayshon scored that touchdown to put them 8-0 up at halftime. Second half is when the Rebels decided they had to go for it a bit more. So I guess quarterback Sam Doran was a little more risky in his passing, which led to him being picked off 3 times in the second half. Actually, 3 times in the third quarter, even, I should mention. And then Rayshon got his second touchdown of the day in the third quarter. The fourth quarter, that's when Max's second interception turned into a pick 6, which sealed the game for the team, sending them to their first final is since before COVID, actually, I believe. Pre-COVID, I think
I think we were
2018,
last.
I think was the last time they were.
Yeah, I think we were on the Trojan sideline for the last one. At least me and Fionn were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great to see them back in the ball game. And yeah, all credit to them.
hmm Like you mentioned on the Rebel side, it has been a year of change. It's been a year of growth for the team. From where they started to here where they finish, if a couple of things had gone their way on Saturday, maybe we could be talking about them making another ball game. But considering the amount, like we said, the well-established change that they have gone through, it is still, you could say, a quite successful season for the team.
Yeah, I think if they're going to look at this season as a disappointment, then I'd be awfully surprised. I can see no real negatives with what the Rebels showed us this season. We have seen that clear progression from the first game of the season through to this one. So yeah, they'll just continue to grow. Sam Doran, obviously his first year as a full-time starter with the Rebels, he's just going to grow into that position as well. So yeah, it's all looking bright for the Rebels going into next season, and who knows, maybe they can make a stir next year and make it to the ball wherever that may be.
Yeah, and it's all about recruitment. And you would think about the obviously, well publicized issues at the Panthers, who obviously are quite closely located to them. You would wonder if maybe some Panthers players will make the move in the off season over to the Rebels. And if that's the case, that will really help them, become a better team and maybe challenge for even one of the top two places to get a home semi-final next year or to make another bowl. We will, of course, see. It's a long summer ahead for the team. Plenty of time to build on that. But it is the Belfast Trojans that are going to Athlone on the 19th of July. They will be taking part in the Shamrock Bowl, where they will face the defending champions UCD, who came out 38 to 22 winners over the Cork Admirals in UCD. UCD side of things on the scores, Aaron Mooney had 2 passing touchdowns on the day. He had one to Stu Wiley, one to Tom Donovan. He had 3 passing 2-point successful attempts. One to Sidney Sweeney, one to Stu Wiley, one to Sean Douglas. Tom McAnuff contributed with 2 rushing touchdowns of his own and a 2-point rush conversion. And to wrap up the scoring, Brandon Atwell had a rushing touchdown of his own. The Cork Admirals faced with the unenviable task of trying to beat UCD, and without their starting quarterback, Jake Kennedy, unfortunately did not make the game. His injury was too severe to play. So Jan Decini, a mix of Jan Decini and a bit of Marty Mulray, and a lot of Wildcat was their offense on Saturday. Although they did contribute with a couple of scores. Ben Kennedy had 2 rushing touchdowns. It's almost a foregone conclusion that he will have at least a couple of rushing touchdowns in any game he plays. He had 2 rushing 2-point attempts that were successful too. And then John Decini connected with Connor McCarthy for a passing touchdown as well later on in the game. A tough task for Cork going up to Dublin to try and beat the defending champions. An even bigger even more difficult when you were without your starting quarterback, Green.
Yeah, 100%. And I was pretty impressed with how they put it up to UCD in this game, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. It was a question that we raised last week, whether or not they would be able to effectively move the ball against what is quite a good UCD defense. And then the loss of Kennedy, a quarterback, is obviously a huge blow. The loss of any quarterback is a huge blow to any team. But yeah, they surprised me in the way that they were able to move the ball and get those few scores on the board. Obviously, having Ben Kennedy in that backfield helps a lot.
Yeah, UCD side of things, we've been waiting for the UCD offense to come back to life since the exam break. They've shown signs of it in the previous weeks. Getting 38 points today is huge. Or not today, at the weekend is good for them, especially against a stout defense like the Admirals as well. Because this Trojans defense that they're going to go up against gave them a lot of trouble in the regular season, and I imagine it's still going to be just as tough now in the bowl game. So the likes of obviously QB Mooney, but Tom McAnuff is going to have a big game. Having Brandon Atwell back and getting on the score sheet and the rushing side of things is huge. And then, of course, you have his reliable receivers, the likes of Tom Donovan, Stu Wiley, Sean Douglas, and now with the addition of Sidney Pindy, there are options there. Because I don't think Sidney was eligible to play the Trojans game. I think he only became eligible after that. So, they have the firepower. It's all about coming up now with a plan that's going to, hurt that stout Trojans defense.
Yeah, they have the firepower. They have probably got the plan as well. And I think they probably have the hunger. That game that they lost against the Trojans earlier on this season will have hurt them. I think they were probably planning to go to this final unbeaten and, be anointed the champions once again. But the Trojans really threw a spanner in that works. So this UCD team has got to be super hungry to go and prove themselves against the team that has proven themselves to be a worthy opponent in this season. So, I'm sure everybody involved is looking forward to it.
Yeah. I kind of want to ask this question, though, about UCD. And it's not like I don't want it to come across as a criticism, because I don't believe that the team should be criticized in that sense. But I remember when we were previewing the season, we had head coach Dara Farrell on. And I asked him, is there a fear, or is there a chance that, the team has been so successful for the last 3 years, 3 bowl appearances, 2 wins. There was seemingly before the re-emergence of the Trojans and how well they've played, we didn't think that there would have been a worthy challenger. And I asked, was there a chance maybe complacency, English is hard right now, could come creep into the team, and it's not something that maybe you can fight against. It's not something that you can see clearly. It's something that just seeps in slowly. And with the start that they had, and then they went on the exam break and they come back. Was there a little bit of complacency? I still can't say it, sorry, but you know what I mean. Has it maybe creeped in a little bit? And if so, does a bowl game, the biggest game of the year, does that get heads back on track?
Yeah, difficult for me to talk, being a long-time pirate, about how bowl games get you in headspace because we never made one. But look, it's obviously going to be talked about, right? The fact that they've had so much success over the last couple of years. They've been pretty much unbeaten outside of the Rebels in the last 2 seasons, and for this Trojans team to come out of left field and kind of hit them with an uppercut was maybe a little bit of a shock to them. So I think probably all of that complacency is now gone, now that they realize that there is a real fight on their hands. I don't think it's going to be an issue going into the game for them. I think their minds will be focused, and we're in for a real humdinger.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Okay, I've stalled for long enough, and we still haven't got Alex on, so we might as well talk about the big breaking news from this evening. That is, Brendan Kelleher has decided that he is stepping away as the head coach of the Cork Admirals. He put out a post about it. I'm not going to share it because it's on a private account, his own private account. If he wants you to see it, you can try and follow him there. I'm not going to go into it, but one of the things that he did mention was the level of officiating, not just in the game at the weekend, but he cited how over the last few years how he feels that the game is moving on in terms of quality. It's getting better and better, but he doesn't believe that the standard of refereeing is catching up with it. I guess, first thing, are you surprised that he's taken the decision to move away from the team? And then secondly, like, what would your point of view be in terms of, the standard of refereeing? Now, I know you have been out of the game for a couple of years, so you're not sort of there on the sidelines seeing it every week. But I guess from when you were still playing, what do you feel that there is an argument to be made here about the, I wouldn't say standard. Standard probably is a tough word, but maybe the continuous training, you could say, or it's a tough word to put on it. But your point of view on it.
Yeah, so I will say I'm a little surprised at the decision to step away from the Admirals. Now, I presume there is some personal aspect to it in terms of not feeling the same passion for the game as he maybe did a few years ago, that kind of thing, and that really does come into it. To be making this statement though as a kind of a statement to the league would trouble me a little bit. So from my point of view, from when I was playing the sport, the refereeing sure may have been a little bit questionable at times, but I would argue not more so than any of the other sports that I've ever played. So when I was playing soccer, there was some questionable refereeing on show. When I was playing a little bit of GAA in school, there was a little bit of questionable refereeing on show. The trouble is we are a very grassroots sport in a very small nation. We don't have many full-time referees, and this is where the problem arises, right? So we've seen this massive growth in terms of coaching and in terms of playing in this country, and that is because we've been able to pool our resources together. Everybody's excited to get involved, make the sport better in Ireland, and the trouble is we do not have the same resource pool in the refereeing community. I think we have 5 full-time referees in Ireland to cover the entire 2 leagues, and that's just not enough, right? So there's a certain level of enthusiasm that goes into the playing and the coaching of the sport where we can rally together, pool our resources. The trouble is the enthusiasm is not there from a refereeing point of view. And I'm not saying that in terms of the referees who are already in the sport. Those guys are clearly enthusiastic. They don't need to be doing this. They're doing it on a volunteer basis. They don't have anybody to turn to in this country to improve things. They have to turn to people outside of the country, and that is obviously an issue. So if we can't, nobody in this sport goes, I want to be a referee. If you're leaving the sport as a player, you never once in your life think, I'm now going to become a referee for this sport. And that's part of the problem. We all want to get into coaching. So all of the enthusiasm is forced towards improving the game from a playing standpoint and improving the game from a coaching standpoint. We do not have the same level of enthusiasm for refereeing. So what I would say to it is, credit to the guys who are already doing it. Maybe there is a conversation involved in continuous improvement, how we can get that done. But the narrative of complaining without having a solution is not the way forward. I'm a fan of talking about solutions. I'm not a fan of talking about problems.
Mm-hmm. Alex, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. I'll come to you there in a second. But just to respond to you, Reed, and I understand that obviously, look, we're voluntary. It's amateur. A lot of guys play for a bit of crack. I worry though about some aspects of what you said in terms of, I know, the uptake on refereeing is not absolutely huge. I understand. But I feel also that we can't be in fear of losing referees, so we will just allow them, allow things to go on as they are. Now, in the statement, there was mention about, twice requests were put in about officials' performances that were seemingly ignored. Now, am I surprised that an email that was sent to a league board member and it was ignored? No, because we've had our own problems this week on the Rhino side, which we will definitely get into because I believe it has a correlation with what's happening with Brendan and the Admirals. But yes, there has to be. I feel that there has to be something there for coaches to see or board members to see that there's some continuous assessment for guys. Because Alex, you've done TPOing before. I've done TPOing before. Reed, you have before, haven't you?
One game ever.
One game, okay, but you've done the course, okay?
I have, yeah.
So we've all done the TPO course. We all are then giving the same bog standard exam to renew that. I think it's more seen as a right. We've got to get our quota up for a league purposes to make sure that we're compliant, rather than trying to, make it something that people are going to want to be interested in and want to get involved in. Now, I will also say on that too, it does come down to there are certain aspects of certain coaches, and that you've heard the stories. I'm sure people around the league have heard the stories about what happened with Brendan and other coaches and stuff and referees at the weekend. And those sort of actions I do not agree with. I feel that's the last thing that any person who chooses a referee, who chooses to be an official, should have to worry about. And seeing those sort of actions is not going to want. Well, if let's say, for example, if you're a Cork Admiral player and you're like thinking about maybe getting involved in refereeing after I'm finished, and then you see the actions about what happened on Saturday, you're like, well, I'm not going to get this abuse. So there's actions from every point of view that we can all improve, but I don't agree with just saying. I don't agree with just keeping it as is. I feel like we should be looking at ways to improve it, and I know that's what you were saying as well. So I am kind of going in a roundabout way to agree with you there. Yeah. I do think that there's a fear right now that we don't want to lose the refs we have, so let them keep going doing what they're doing rather than trying to actively improve things. But Alex, like I said, very welcome to the show. You're straight into it.
I want to make just a one final point on that in terms of we don't want to lose the referees that we already have. Well, there's a chance that we lose the referees that we already have based on their treatment by people involved in the sport. And I'm not saying that anybody did anything wrong or anybody did anything right, but there's a very real chance that if we keep speaking out against referees, which I think people should be entitled to do, right? People make mistakes and you should be able to bring that forward. Yeah. But if we keep bringing forward complaints without any solutions to the problem, then we're at risk of people going, you know what, fuck this. I am not doing this anymore because I'm not getting paid. I'm taking hours out of my week on a weekly basis to do this, and all I get is abuse. It is like, it's something that we need to talk about. It's not that we can just say, oh, I'll just let them get away with it. It'll be fine. It's more than that. It's way more than that.
Alex, you've been very patient there listening to both of us ramble on for a little bit. What's your point of view on the sort of, first of all, on the news that Brendan has decided to step away, and then obviously, the greater sort of roll around or why he's decided to leave?
Yeah, obviously it's a massive disappointment to see Brendan leave Cork. He's a very talented coach with a great mind for football. So definitely disappointed to see him lose, and it is a big loss for Cork. And I think, whenever the sport loses anyone of talent, or anyone like in general who's given as much to the league and the sport as Brendan has, it's a shame. But to move on to his point about the referees, look, The referee standard in the league is not incredible. It's not elite. I would argue that the level of football we play on the island isn't elite either. So, you kind of have to give some leeway there. The referees are doing the best job that they can. Having been a referee and I've been a referee, a TPO now for 6 years. I've been in plenty of rooms I'd say I've refed with every single ref in the league. There's not a ref in the country that goes out on a game to target a specific individual or team with penalties or calls like that. It doesn't happen. There's no we're not meeting in the dressing rooms pre-game deciding we're going to call it on X player because I'm going to call a penalty on Alex because he's been a dickhead to me in a previous game. Like we're like referees, we're like the players. We just try and you have a game, you ref it as well as you think you do. I know certainly for me as a TPO, I will always go and watch the film of the game. So I ref them like, yeah, no, that was a blown call, definitely. And that's going to happen. It's just same as when I'm watching my tape, I'm like, oh, there's a blown assignment. Absolutely whiffed on that tackle there. Like I do in a game. There's no reason I wouldn't do the same in a game as a referee. And it's not malicious. It's never with the intent to punish someone. You go out and call the game to the best of your ability, which is what the refs do in this league. I think there's certainly an argument and certainly avenues that could be explored to improve the standard of refereeing in the leagues, extra courses and stuff. I know Steve Sager has done some work to bring it up to a level as well, in conjunction with Steve Moles and the rest of the officiating department. There is measures being put in to try and improve the ability of TPOs and the ability of league refs. And I think to question that, I think that quite brings the whole integrity of the game into question in the country to be saying that refs are going out with some sort of agenda or are targeting you in a game. It's not happening, and I won't have it said that it's happening. Like it's absolutely not true. So I'll back referees on that every day of the week, and I don't have a solution for improving the standard of referees. I'd like to know if Brendan had a suggestion. Might that be more helpful than calling referees out publicly for some sort of perceived targeting of an individual? I think solutions would need to be offered, and not just this is a massive problem and just throwing it out there. I'm like, it's not going to get better that way. Raising it, there's certainly an argument to be made for highlighting the problem. But I think people within the league are generally aware of it. It gets brought up at AGMs and stuff, but that is the place to bring these sort of things up. AGMs, bring a proposal to the league. I'd like to see the league refereeing pool improved, and here's X, Y, and Z reason I think it should be improved, and here's something that we could actively look at. There's courses that go on in America or something from former college referees or something like that. Bringing actual solutions to it, I think that's what should be done, rather than throwing referees under buses so far. Decisions. Anyway, apologies for rambling as well, but sure, I thought you'd join the two of you and you were doing it.
It's good. Yeah, and look, this is the thing, and this, there's aspects where I kind of feel for Brendan in the sense that there are not the game itself, and I like that, Alex. I agree with you in terms. I don't think referees go out with a predetermined agenda and all that stuff. I'll never agree with that either. But there is organizational issues that need to be addressed. And look, let's move on into it there right now, and let's talk about the absolute farce that was last week and trying to organize all the games. There was meant to be originally 6 games. That's 4 playoff games between SBC and Hartball, and then you were meant to have the Shield and the play final on the Sundays. Now, unfortunately, due to events, the Vikings had to forfeit their final because they were not able to get enough numbers to travel to Dublin for the game. Okay. Then when like we've known since, when was the schedule out? January schedule was out. Only about that. Yeah. We've known since January that we are going to have this busy weekend of semi-finals and play Shield finals. And then we're told on Tuesday afternoon if we'd be willing to move this. Now, I'm going to say we in the next few minutes as a context as a Rhino, because this has happened with the Rhinos. We are then told asked on Tuesday if we would be willing to move our game to Sunday because of a lack of referees available to do it, because normally they don't want to use TPOs for semi-final games. They want to use their full-time crews, which I agree with. I absolutely do agree with that. You should be using full-time crews for this. So, we're wondering like what's going to happen here. What are we going to do? We're talking to the team is talking and taking polls and stuff, saying, listen, if it's changed to Sunday, can you play Sunday? We're going to miss guys because of that, because they had planned for Saturday, either work, family events, something like that. You have to plan for these things around. Something that I thought would have been done on the league side of things, but it seemed to have not have been with the officials, because I believe two officials were away on holidays or something like that. And of course, it's not notorious that you cannot plan for a holiday. You can never do this in advance. It's always a spur of the moment thing. But so we're trying to organize that. I think Minotaurs are trying to organize a new ambulance. They can't get a new ambulance. So then we're talking about moving it back to Saturday and doing it early on Saturday and doing it as part of a double header. I think we offered the solution of doing a game on UCD's ground. I think it was like 11 a.m. and then UCD would play their game at maybe 2:30 or 3 or something like that. Push it out a little bit so that only one officiating crew is needed. So that means you can still play the game. I believe the Minotaurs were okay with that too, but we left it to the league to ask UCD. UCD never received any formal request. Alex, I actually believe that were yous originally asked too if yous would move to Sunday.
I think we were asked after you, or maybe Wednesday or so. I can't remember.
Yeah,
we were asked if
the idea,
but we couldn't facilitate.
The idea was floated. Yeah, the idea was floated anyway. So we're still so this is getting into Wednesday, close to Thursday. We still don't know what we're doing. We still don't know if we're having a game. So this is the sort of organizational issues that we're having at the moment, and it's not just refereeing; it's clearly board level. And then we get an email saying that the game is happening as normal after all of this changing and what could, what might not, the game is happening as normal on Saturday at 2 p.m. They found one Whitecap to do it, and it was 3 Vikings TPOs. Now, like I said at the start, they don't like using TPOs for semi-finals and stuff, but I guess needs must. We were just happy to play the game. But I think something that I didn't like was the fact that there seemed to have been some blame put on us as the Rhinos, because we were accused of jumping the gun, saying that the game is being moved when the game was never actually, we were not said the game was never actually, we were never asked to move the game, where we have 2 texts from 2 different people involved in the league asking us if we would move the game. So that's a clear out lie. That email originally was from the commissioner. So it's like last week has been an absolute farce. It's taken years off the board's life. I feel sorry for the Hosfords and stuff having to deal with it all week. They did a fantastic job trying to get something sorted where we did play the game. Fortunately, didn't go our way. We'll get into that in a minute. But see, this is the problems, and we heard other things during the week that people have left the league board, but that hasn't been communicated to teams either. So organizationally, things are, if for not wanting to curse, an SH1T show at the moment. That's where I feel sorry for the likes of Brandon, where he's seeing that, like, if there's so much disorganization, how can you see a way of things improving? And that's me rambling. I'll open up to either of you that want to pop in. I've rambled down for a little too much now for a second.
I think the answer, though, is volunteer, right? Like, there's been empty seats on the board for quite a while now. And if rumors are true, there are now even more empty seats on that board. Nobody is stepping up to fill these roles, and that's part of the problem. Very difficult for me to comment from the outside in terms of what actually went wrong in this instance, in terms of the games being messed up and moved around and all that sort of thing. I don't know where the blame lies, but the blame probably lies in the hands of there's just not enough resources in the league to make this organization happen. Now, I know it's very easy to say, oh, well, it's an easy thing to get right. It's also a very easy thing to get wrong. So it is tricky. Yes, they should be more organized. Yes, they should have this in their calendar for a long time. So it should be very easy to manage. But as we always go back to, it is a volunteer sport. It is not anybody's entire life. Sometimes things just slip under the radar a little bit, and this seems to be one of those times. Hopefully, it's something that the league can learn from. Hopefully, they do get more resources in the future to kind of mitigate these problems. But it will be a case of people stepping up. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and pontificate about people not stepping up when I have not been a board member with the league or volunteered with the league at any stage during my career. But we do need dedicated people involved. And once again, we're going back to the fact that we need solutions as opposed to problems. So I am ears wide open for people to come in and bring some solutions forward.
Yeah, look, it was a bit of a mess. And given it's been in the calendar for a while, it probably could have been foreseen and avoided. But I think that the main problem is having the amount of games on at the weekend and then trying to not have TPOs is very difficult because you had 12 teams originally scheduled to play that weekend, and out of 16, so that only leaves 4 teams that are able to provide TPOs, and they're going to be the 4 teams that have not qualified for the Plate and Shield final and also missed out on playoffs. So it's a fairly small pool, and it's probably teams that are likely to be on the lower end of the sort of seasons kind of dwindle down. Less guys even turn up at training, let alone volunteer to go on TPO. So first off, I think deserved shout out to the UL Vikings and Cowboys, who both sent 3 TPOs to supplement various fixtures over the weekend. That's great for them coming out and bailing the league out. But yeah, look, it's a real lack of communication between the 2 departments, the officiating department and the league department, to sort this out sooner than it was attempted to be sorted out. And yeah, like communication's it's been a real issue for a while within the league board. But unfortunately, there is guys on the board doing and girls as well doing great work and keeping really holding the league together, it seems. But I think there is a real change needed. I think on the board membership, there has to get new blood in there with new ideas, because these problems are problems we've kind of seen consistently probably since the league returned after the pandemic. I mean, there's constantly being plagued by these sort of administrational and communication errors. But yeah, I think that's kind of what as Rian said, we need new people stepping up into these positions and fulfilling it and doing a better job. Because I think a better job can be done, for being honest. But people need to be in position to do that. I think that's my take on it.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Look, I think it's a discussion that we can sort of maybe go back to once the season is finished with, about possible things that we would like to see going forward. And I know, Alex, you're mentioning the change there. Maybe it is something that needs to happen, but we'll discuss that a little further. We still have 3 games to discuss, and let's start with Alex, we'll go with you first because let's talk about the happy story first. We've done a lot of negative. Let's talk about some happy stuff. The Loud Mavericks are heading to the bowl game. They're heading to the Harp Bowl, Harp Bowl 10, with a 64-0 victory over the Kildare Crusaders. Ty Henry had just the 4 passing touchdowns on the day, 2 to Finn O'Donovan. Finn actually had 5 touchdowns in total on the day because he had 3 rushing touchdowns to go with that too. Brendan Sims and Brandon Poland also chipped in. Sorry, it was 5 passing touchdowns for Ty, not 4. Ty also rushed for a passing touchdown of his own. Eamon Ward got a pick 6 and a second interception. Jerry Lawless and Jack Compton also pitched in with an interception each. One name I do not see on that stat sheet is a Mr. Alex Sims. What, were you just bored and you just didn't want to catch anything on Saturday, no?
Oh, no. Dom stole my fumble recovery as well, but I'll forgive him.
We'll absolutely forgive him for that, for sure. But yes, Alex, so a very, very convincing win. It's exactly what the Mavs have been doing all year. And they've been winning, they've been scoring points, and now they head into the bowl. I know you probably don't want to, hype this up anymore, but hot favorites.
I think it's fair to say we have been pretty impressive this year. I think like everyone's been impressed by the output the offense has been putting in, and 64 points in a playoff win is it is another level. But yeah, they executed Everton to perfection. Like there was just a lot of emphasis in the week and a half leading up to training, just to get out there, do your job, execute Everton to perfection. And I think when Everton comes off on a day, on a day like that, you can put up a big score such as that. Everton, I think, just fell into place for us, and came at the better side on the day.
Yeah. Rian, we like I said, we've seen this all year from the Mavericks, and you know what, we'll give the defense a bit of love because I think that is that the 3rd shutout in as many games?
4th, actually.
4th shutout in as many games for the defense as well. So yes, the offense.
Technically, the last game we conceded in was the Minotaurs. We conceded 7, but that was actually a kick return touchdown. So the defense itself hasn't conceded, I think, since May 4th. So yeah, going pretty well on both sides of the ball. Just executing very well. Careful not to say anything might jeopardize my playing time in the bowl game, in the proper GA media ban kind of territory here now.
God. Don't worry, if you're not available to come on the show next week, I can understand why. Don't worry about it. But Rian, so your view on the game on Saturday?
Yeah, really, really impressive result from the Mavericks side of things. Disappointed that the Crusaders couldn't get things going. I'm not sure who was available in that game, but generally when we see the Crusaders play, we see Jordan Farrell and Wello get on the score sheet at some point. So tough to see them lay a duck egg on that one. But look, all credit to the Mavs on this one. The absolutely stellar performance as usual. That's a team that could do a lot of damage in the Shamrock Bowl next season, but there is one game to play, and it is in the Minotaurs' back garden. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I guess before we move on, the Crusaders, it is a season of progress for them. Not making the playoffs last year. Yes, they did make the playoffs this year. Disappointing to end in the way it does. Give a shout out to Wello as well, because it seems as though it's his last game, at least for the Crusaders. I believe
he's right. Spoke to him afterwards. He says he's retiring from the sport. He's finished.
He's retiring. Well, look, fair play to him for a fantastic time playing with the Rhinos, the Panthers, the Rebels, and obviously the Crusaders for the last few years. So he's had a storied history with the AFI, with a few Shamrock Balls thrown in there too. So
Jamie never completed the directional Dublin team, trifecta there, and when he didn't play for the North Dublin Pirates.
He did reach out at one point.
Did reach out at some point. Yeah. I think we were in the running with the Crusaders at the time, and it didn't work out for one reason or another, obviously. But yeah, so like that for the Crusaders, big thing for them is recruitment this offseason. Try and get some new blood in, try and get some more bodies to try to sort of help the team grow and compete, because numbers did become an issue towards the end, and it's not great to see any team that see on the sideline where there's just a few bodies there. It doesn't pose a great look for the future, especially if you have a few guys deciding to retire. But fingers crossed they can get recruitment right in the off season and try and get something going. The team the Minotaurs will be facing is unfortunately not the Minotaurs. The team that the Mavericks will be facing in the final is unfortunately not the Rhinos. The Rhinos are come to a 19 points to 17 loss to the Westmeath Minotaurs in Mullingar on Saturday. Scoring wise, first of all, for the Minotaurs, Connor Brennan had 2 passing touchdowns on the day, one to Thomas Viles and one to Carl Dunn. Rafa Montero also rushed for a touchdown. Rafa was also ejected in the second half of that game, which is important because it means now, Alex, I think you know this better than I do, because it's Rafa's second ejection of the season. Does that mean he misses the whole game, or does he still just miss the first half of the final?
Yeah, the punishment doubles for each next foul, so he's banned for 4 halves of a football game. So that'll be the second half that he missed against Yee, that he was ejected in, the 2 halves of the bowl game, and then the first half of whatever the first game for the Minotaurs is next season.
Right, so crucial loss for them in that game. Absolutely massive to not have Rafa play that. On the Rhino side of things, it was Ethan Foster and Craig Usher with a rushing touchdown each. Killian Steins had 2 extra points and a field goal as well. I should also mention, Jay Bruton had a extra point as well for the Minotaurs for that, for them too, to finish off their scoring. A tight game throughout. It was a 7-7. The Minotaurs went in front. The Rhinos came back. Minotaurs went in front again, missed the extra point, so they were 13-7 up. We came back and scored in the second quarter to go 14-13 up. The Minotaurs then scored just before halftime to go 19-14 up. And then that was it at the half. We score, I think it was our first drive of the second half. We get it into the red zone. Unfortunately, can't score to go ahead. A few silly penalties here and there kind of pushed us back, so we decided to go for the field goal, 19-17. And sort of that was kind of it. A couple of interceptions I should also mention for one for the Minotaurs. It was I have it here. Sorry, I'll make sure I got the name. Darren Salmon had an interception in the first half. For the Rhinos, Dean Osborne had a forced fumble. Pádraig Lawler got the fumble recovery. In the second half, they had 2 interceptions, one from Adam Jenkins, another from Mohamed Saheen. The ball was turned over. The Adam Jenkins interception was late in the fourth quarter, about 5-6 minutes left. In their half, put us in great field position. I think we got it at one stage to the 1 yard line on third down. Unfortunately, we weren't able to punch it in for the go-ahead touchdown. Decided to try and go for the field goal on fourth down. That was blocked, which was heartbreaking. The Minotaurs then, we still had 3 timeouts left, caused the Minotaurs to try, used all of them, try and make them get the first downs. They were 3rd and 1 after our last touchdown. I think Joe Kinnan came in, but it wasn't actually. It was him actually. Yeah, he rushed himself to get the first down. A lot of arguments at the time about whether or not he made it. But look, listen. Congratulations to the Minotaurs. That's the third time they've beaten us this year. They go on to the bowl game. Unfortunately for the Rhinos, it's not a second bowl appearance, but still a successful season nonetheless, making it to a semi-final, a kick within making it to the bowl, being one, like I said, one kick away from the bowl. Especially going through a whole new offense, like a new QB who's never played the game before. Kevin Kelly played terrifically in that game on Saturday too. Just wasn't to be.
Yeah, I mean, all credit to the Rhinos, and credit where credit is due to the Rhinos in this one. It is really difficult to, come at a season with a completely new offense and to just see that improvement throughout the whole season. So, look, I think looking into next season, they can certainly look at this season as a success, and looking into next season, I think their eyes are going to be firmly set on that bowl game and that move up to the Premier Division, where they have experience before, but not in a little bit of time now. So, look, I think that's going to be the goal for next season on the Minotaur side of things. To be fair, I think probably on the grand scheme of things, they did deserve to get to this final. They were, for the whole season, probably the second best team in the league. So, fair play to them. They got the job done. But like you said, there, that loss of Rafa Montero for the final is going to be a crucial one.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, a bit of a heartbreaking one, Dara, for you. I've watched a bit of the tape, haven't seen the full extent of it, but the new offensive plan seemed to work, and because I think you scored one touchdown against them in the two previous games.
Yeah, and to be fair, they put up at least 30 points in both games against us, and it was only the last game where we scored a touchdown. We didn't score on them in the first game of the season, so shows a definite progress.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a similar scoreline to what you beat us with last year again, after we put probably higher scoring games against you during the season. So I don't know what it is about the Rhinos. They love that to lose twice to a team a season and then play them really well in that playoff game. You lull us into a false sense of security or something there. Is that it?
It must be. Look, and I have to, while we're actually talking about it, I have to give huge props to the defense as a whole, because they did not concede a point at all in the second half. Picked off Connor twice as well.
Poor Lawler looked dominant there at the end.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think there was one sack as well. It was on. They went on for a 2-point try after their touchdown, and Podge just came out like a light and leveled poor Connor Brennan. I felt so sorry for him in that, and like it won't in the stats. It won't officially go down as a sack because it was a 2-point attempt, but it was a beautiful play.
Absolutely. But yeah, look, as you say, it's not. I don't think it can be seen as a poor season by the Rhinos for any stretch. Obviously, you wanted to go back into a bowl game and test your mettle again, try and get that promotion spot. But another year of development again. You got a young QB there, his first a full year of experience under his belt now, and with a bit of recruitment and everything like everyone has to do at this point of the season, when the season's over, think about building for the future. But I think the Rhinos have got the good bones of a team there, to be able to build a side that's going to be ready to compete again next year. As for the Minotaurs, I think they were probably headed this direction from early on in the season. They had a great regular season, 7-1. So I think the kind of signs pointed to this matchup in the final. We kind of expected the Minotaurs being there. They've done well though to face adversity during the season. having lost a regular quarterback and Conor Brennan having to step in, they've managed that, I think, shift quite well, and they've come out the other side of it looking pretty good, and it'll be an interesting matchup in 2 weeks' time. Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I guess that's Reen, unless you have anything else to add, we'll wrap up the semi-finals. No? Okay. Just one more game then very quickly, because I know we're a little bit over time. The plate that wasn't actually a plate game took place at the weekend. The Northwest Vipers against the Wexford Eagles. It finished 18-6 to the Wexford Eagles. Congratulations to them to winning the plate trophy. Is that, I guess, that what they call it? I guess
Plate Cup.
Plate trophy. Plate Cup. Yeah. Next year, the teams in it will play for the knife and fork to finish the full cutlery set. AJ Gross had a rushing touchdown for the Vipers. On the Eagle side of things, it was one rushing touchdown for Doran Trailer, and two rushing touchdowns for Terry Carey. So despite the Eagles' issues in terms of numbers, they still fought to the end, and they pick up a bit of silverware to finish the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Eagles kind of, in a way, sort of with their numbers and everything dwindling, we did kind of think that they were limping towards the end of the season, but they showed some good resolve and mettle to kind of get stuck in here. The Vipers did have, I don't know if they'd opened, they certainly had AJ Bruce there running back for them. And I'd imagine that certainly made a difference for them. I believe he scored their lone touchdown. So that made it a good close contest. But the Eagles, I think, just have that sort of fight in them, that dog in them to really dig in when they need to, and we're able to put up 3 touchdowns of their own to seal the victory there. I think for both teams, we'll look on the season with a bit of positivity. Obviously, I think they both know there's room to grow there for them and develop. But I think overall, they've had a pretty good season. They've got they're new enough under new enough regimes there. The coaches at the Vipers are relatively new. They've got a young side as well. I think a couple of the older guys have gone away from that team. So, and the same with the Eagles as well. They're, his first year as head coach there is his first year as a head coach. I think he'll learn from that experience. They had low numbers, but they had a good base. Like, they had some good talent there. Terry Carey and Doran Trailer put up some good scores. They have Luke Fitzpatrick as well. He's another great operator or wide receiver. We didn't see him as much this year. But we know he has the talent to perform. So I think things are positive in both camps. They'll know, again, let's say it for every club as the end of their season, recruitment will be key. They can get some more bodies in around them, train them up to play their style of football. And I think both are well capable of competing for playoff football next year.
Yeah. Absolutely. I guess that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show, guys.
You don't want Rian the chance to have a shout, no?
Well, Rian, sorry. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's grand. I was just going to really echo what Alex said. Hopefully both of these teams use this, plate appearance as a jumping off point to succeed next year. Maybe the Giants, who won it the year before, kind of failed to kind of take that next step forward. So hopefully we see this kind of development that we've always been talking about in relation to the plate moving forward. And yeah, look, I think the trajectory for both of these teams is upward.
Perfect. Now we will end the show. Thank you very much for that. Before we do go, though, we should mention, and we are delighted to mention that this show and every show this AFI season has been brought to you by Rain Rocks Web Design. They are the team behind UCP.ie, and we can't thank them enough for the great work that they've done with us all this season to help set up the website and help set up a hub for you to be able to see the latest goings on in terms of league tables and results and fixtures. And we will continue to do that, hopefully, going into next year and the year after that. Let's see what happens. Let's see how long you can keep my attention for before I get bored. Before we go, also make sure you follow us on the socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram, Twitter. I think we're the same one on TikTok as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, and you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are trying to build up as many followers as we can to try and get the good word of American football in Ireland out there to the masses. But that is it, lads. As always, thank you very much.
Cheers.
And we will try to be back next week to preview the bowl games, the Harp Bowl and, of course, the Shamrock Bowl. Two games we are eagerly looking ahead to. If you are interested, by the way, tickets are available to go to the triple header, which of course will include the Claddagh Bowl as well. If you want to go, just head over to the American Football Ireland social channels. The link to get tickets are there too. Well worth a day out for the family if you want to go see some American football. And also with the bar and the food there, there's plenty of things to keep you occupied for that too. But until next week, stay safe. And of course, as always, we'll see you soon.